Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining our quick chat session. In the month of June, we will be doing something a little bit different and maybe having a little bit more of this early week sessions, quick chat, quick info sessions for you to ask your Canadian immigration questions. Thank you for joining us. My name is Florence Akman. I'm the founder and lead consultant here at InfoPlace Canada, a Canadian immigration consulting firm helping immigrants from around the world that are looking to come to Canada. I have with me here today Esther Citelio, one of our consultants, a regulated Canadian immigration consultant who consults and advises clients on immigration pathways, options, and also works on application finalization as well. Esther, thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you, Florence, for having me. Hello, everyone.
Thanks for joining.
I hope you're all doing great.
Yeah. So if you could just tell us where you're joining from, that would be great. We already started seeing lots of questions coming in. We also have another consultant who will be joining us as the session goes on. Sharon will be popping in here as well. So we're just here for the next hour to answer your questions and chat with you and see what's going on with immigration. A lot has been happening, and we'll probably talk about those as we're answering questions, because we've seen that a lot of times those always come in as we go on with our questions and all of that. So before we get started, I would love to put this message out there as well, that InfoPlace Canada's Instagram account, we have not had access to this account for about a week now. Something's going on with Meta, and we're still working with them to figure it out. The good thing is the page is still live there. We have lots of great information on there that you can still see and use, but we are still working with them to regain access back into the account to post. So in the meantime, we have created a backup page where we're going to continue sharing and doing what we love to do the most, which is bringing you the latest Canadian immigration information, educating you as much as we can on social media while we are working on applications and helping you navigate, inspiring you, letting you know what's possible with Canadian immigration. So please do follow the page. If you're on Instagram, it's at InfoPlace Canada. I'm going to type it here in the chat at InfoPlace Canada, BKUB. So InfoPlace Canada Backup. That is the new page. And please follow us on that page, and we'll continue to put information out. When we gain access back to the next account, we now have 2 Instagram accounts. So 2 is always better than 1, and we're going to make a lot of things fun on there. So we're going to get right into it now. I'm going to bring Sharon on as well. She's here before we get started with answering your questions. So keep putting your questions in the chat, and we're going to take them one after the other. Hi, Sharon.
Good morning. Good
morning.
Good evening, everyone.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very good. Nice to see lots of people here.
Yes, we have about 29 people here already. So it's great. Nice, cozy group of people. We're going to get questions answered. Just for this intro, we're going to get right into it. What we usually do with this session is for the next hour, we're going to be doing questions. As you type your questions and we get to it, we're going to answer. Closer to the end of it, we'll let you know when the session is about to end. I will also provide you contact details of how you can reach out to us and things like that. We may not be able, we're not always able to answer everybody's questions in this session, but we do try our best, and we hope that you find this beneficial and useful. And if you have anybody that would benefit from this Q&A session, do share the link with them as well so that they can join us. All right, we're going to get started here with Amakop. You have a question here. I opened a West account and registered, but when I received a soft copy of my transcript from the university I attended, I noticed errors and my grade I filled in West is different. What can I do to correct it in my West account? If you've had some corrections and some update done to your transcript, I would advise that you reach out to West, notify them of these changes and this update, and they will be able to put you through and do the right thing that needs to be done with your account. So good thing that you caught that on time as well. Okay. All right. Pass this over to Esther. Joy has a question.
Okay. Thank you, Florence. So the question is, I am a caterer. I have trade tests 1, 2, and 3 in catering and hotel work. Can I apply for express entry? And for now, which province is best for Easy Card? So for express entry, what you're looking at is when it comes to your work experience, if it's tier category 0, 1, 2, and 3, that's qualifying work experience that you can use for express entry. If it's 4 and 5, then it can't be used for express entry. So I believe catering, hotel work, like it really depends on the position. Some of that would be classified as tier 4 and 5. So you can't use it for express entry unless you're like a hotel manager. The thing is, like, my advice would be determine your knock code. If you know your knock code, then you would be able to determine the tier category. So remember, if it's 0, 1, 2, and 3, then that can be used for express entry. As for which province is easy for permanent residency, I would say it really depends on your background. If you're not in trades, you're not in tech, you might want to explore the Atlantic provinces. You might want to explore the prairies. But if you're in tech, you're in health, I would say British Columbia is also good. So is Ontario, especially with their human capital priority stream draw. So it really comes down to what you've studied, what your background is in.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much, Esther. Great answer. Okay. Amma has a question here, Sharon.
I just want to add to that last one that Alberta focuses quite heavily on hospitality and tourism.
Yes.
Alberta gives out invitations to apply for people who are specifically in hospitality and tourism, because Alberta is a very touristy province. So depending on what your like exactly as Esther said, depending on what your background is, in which part of that area you're in, I would certainly have a look into Alberta, because they really like people in hotel work, restaurant work, all that kind of stuff. So Alberta's a good one.
Awesome.
Okay. My husband has a B.Eng auto and has more than 10 years experience in heavy duty equipment repairs. How can you get a job in Canada from Nigeria? Getting a job in Canada when you're not in Canada definitely has its challenges, but what you're looking for is a job that comes with what's called a labor market impact assessment, or an LMIA. Now, being involved with engineering, that's a possibility. That might come into the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the STEM occupations. So I don't know. It would depend how old he is, what his educational background is, language tests, etc. But with an engineering background, he could certainly look into express entry, and because the STEM draws are one of the targeted occupations in Canada at the moment. In terms of getting a job, what I would look into is if you use the Canadian Job Bank, we can send a link to the Canadian Job Bank, and you can search the Canadian Job Bank. You can filter it to temporary foreign workers, employers who already have an approved LMIA. Now, an LMIA is essentially permission from the Canadian government that an employer is allowed to hire a foreign worker. So what you need really is something that's either quite specialist or something that's hugely in demand. So I couldn't tell you off the top of my head whether your husband's previous work experience is going to be hugely in demand, but what he needs to look at is companies that he would be interested in working for. So what I would do is search for that type of company in Canada. Don't just search Google for jobs in that particular area. Search for companies. Send resumes off to that company and say, this is my background, these are my skills, this is why I'd be really good at working for your company. Because large companies like engineering companies, that kind of thing, they might be interested in hiring somebody from outside of Canada, because they might not be able to find somebody in Canada who's got those specific skills that they require. So I would say approach companies directly, because they might be willing to apply for this LMIA for you to hire a foreign worker. And then also use the Canadian Job Bank to have a look for employers who've already got approved LMIAs, would be my advice.
Perfect. That's awesome. I think I would like to add something there as well. In addition to what Sharon has mentioned, is we have seen people who have gotten jobs from their home country, even from Nigeria, before coming into Canada. And one of the things that I do notice a lot of times with those people who are able to do that is that they're not looking in the big cities. They're not looking in the big hubs. So when you're looking for jobs from outside, you want to look at the smaller towns, the smaller communities in Canada, across the country, where they're looking for the type of skill set that you have. Because a lot of times, even people in Canada may not want to go live there in the smaller city. Everyone wants to live in the big city, but that could be an opportunity for you if you're looking to come, because there's skilled labor out there. Had a welder who got a job straight from Nigeria, from a small town, and was able to get work permits and all of that to come in, and not just work permit, all the way to PR and things like that. So it's very important to explore that when you're looking for an option to get a job in Canada. Don't just look in Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver, and all of that. Look in the small communities as well. Okay, so there have been a couple of people join us. I think we have doubled our numbers since we started this information session. And I just want to circle back again. I just put out a very important announcement out there so that you're aware. Like at the beginning of this session, I talked about our Instagram account that has been down for about a week right now. We are working with Meta to gain access into that account. The account is still available, so you can still see it. But unfortunately, we're not able to have access to it. They said everything is fine, and they're working behind the scenes to give us access to that account. But in the meantime, because Instagram is where we do share a lot, and we have a great community on there, we have created a backup page, which you would have probably seen in the chat here, and I'm going to reshare that again. We've created a backup page. I've actually pinned it now. We've created a backup page. InfoPlace Canada BKUB on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, please follow us, share this. We want to ensure that you have the right account and you're still communicating with us as well. So please be aware of this. And if you have any questions, direct it to us, or again, our email, ask@infoplacecanada.ca. My team and I always ready and waiting to answer your questions and help you through as well. Thank you so much. Thanks for everyone who's joined. Okay, so we have EJ here. EJ has a question. Can someone studying business analysis link permanent work experience as produce clerk to apply for PR? I'm assuming you're just saying, I'm a produce clerk. Can I apply for PR with this? One thing I would say is that the job title does not tell us much. In order for us to determine if the work experience that you have is a qualified work experience that can be used for permanent residence, we need to see the job description, everything that is associated with it, to determine what the correct knock code is. So there's a knock code analysis that I would say that needs to be done about your job duties to determine if it's a qualifying job. Jobs that qualify for permanent residence application through the skilled worker express entry pathway are your tier 0, 1, 2, 3. So if your job description and everything that has to do with it is reviewed and it's not in one of those tier categories that I just mentioned, unfortunately, you will not be able to use that to apply for permanent residence. But if you do have any other work experience, prior work experience that you may have had over the last 10 years, that's what IRCC looks at. You could use that to apply for, to create a profile at least, with the hopes of receiving an invitation to apply for permanent residence. You could also explore the options with your type of work experience in the province, in other provinces across Canada that you might be interested in. A lot of times, assessing all of the pathways that are very available and open to you typically involves, maybe having a one-on-one session with one of our consultants, Esther or Sharon here, so they can do a deep dive into what your profile looks like and really be able to map out what your options would look like long term. So a little bit more would need to be done to know if that particular job of yours would qualify, but you want to know that it has to be tier 0, 1, 2, 3 for a skilled worker. Okay. All right. Esther, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Florence.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. If I do a one-year college course and I want to do a 1+1 to get 3 years, does my second college course have to be 1 year in length, or can it be 8 months? So the short answer is yes. But ultimately, what IRCC is going to be looking at is, does the combined length of the two programs result, is that 2 years in total? Is that 2 years or more? If the answer is yes, then you'll get a 3-year work permit. There are some programs that you can complete within 8 months, but they're regarded as a 1-year program. If that is the case, then yes, you'll be issued a work permit for 3 years. So the short answer is yes, but ultimately at the very end, it would depend on the number of hours, and if it's considered as a 1-year program, that can be completed within an 8-month time frame.
Awesome, perfect, thank you. Okay, Zedia has a question here. Zedia Walter, Sharon.
Okay, hi Zedia. I'm in Canada on a study permit. My 2 daughters are with me on a visitor record. I'd like to have their visitor records changed to secondary school study permits. Would like to know if they'll be able to work part-time during summer on a secondary study permit. Would it make it easier for them to apply once they transition over? Okay. Can they work part-time on a secondary study permit? See, they don't, to study at the secondary school level, you don't technically need a study permit in Canada. You can, if your parent, so if you, the parent, is on a study permit in Canada, a valid study permit, technically your daughters don't need to actually have a study permit to study at the secondary school level. However, because they're on a visitor record, their visitor record will be tied to your status. So it would be better for them to have a study permit, because then it would be in alignment with your study permit. It doesn't really matter if they're on a study permit or a visitor record. The benefit of the study permit would be that it would continue. It's for a longer duration than a visiting visa. So that would be the benefit. Working part-time during, I think, I'm actually not sure about the answer to this off the top of my head. Yeah. I think that you would be allowed to, because during scheduled study breaks, as long as they're of an age where they're allowed to work in the province that you're in. Am I right? Is that right?
Yeah, I think with that question, I think they would need to check what the conditions on the study permit that was issued to the children will be. That's what would determine if the children would be eligible to work or not. But definitely you can change. The reason why sometimes people switch to study is depending on the province and some benefits in the province. They might want the minors to have a study permit. And that's when that comes into play. But
they wouldn't be able to work on a visitor record.
They wouldn't be able to work on a visitor's record.
If they want to work, and they're of an age where they're allowed to work, because the provinces have different ages of when you're allowed to work. So I would check with the province that you're in what the minimum age is for working in that province, and also look at the conditions. So they don't have a study permit at the moment. So if they switch to a study permit, what you would want to check is, are they allowed to? Because students at the post-secondary level are allowed to work 20 hours per week during school sessions. But they're allowed to work full-time during school breaks. So during the summer, for example, you would have to check what it says on the study permit, because it might be slightly different for a minor, and it might depend on what province you're in.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Go ahead, Esther. You wanted to add to that.
Yeah. So if you see that they're not allowed to work based on the conditions, because I know I've seen that, I've encountered that before, that minors come into the country and their study permit shows that they cannot work. In that case, you can also apply for an open work permit for them. IRCC does have a temporary policy in place that as long as you meet the requirements, you can apply for your dependent to work in Canada. Yeah. So that is also an option that they have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you. So I hope, Zedia, that answers your question. But if you want to discuss this more and look into the intricacies of it and what can be done and all of that, certainly reach out, schedule a session, and then they can go into more details to help. But you could switch to the study permit, no harm. But in terms of them working, it would depend on the conditions on the work permit. Or if you just want them to work, then there's that work permit option that they can work on as well. All right. Thank you. Babatunde has a question here. How does provincial nominee works? Who qualifies to be nominated? Provincial nomination, it's a very interesting program. We have like over 10 provinces with different provincial pathways with the territories as well. They are different ways that they work. Some of them are linked to the express entry system, where if you have an express entry profile and you meet the eligibility requirement and the demand that a province has, you might receive an invitation from that province to apply for permanent residence through the express entry system. So you then apply for the nomination. When you're nominated, you come back into the express entry system and then apply for permanent residence at that time. Then there are also those permanent residence programs that are the provincial nomination programs that are not linked to express entry. You just have to meet the eligibility for one of the programs in one of those provinces to apply. A lot of times the requirements for provincial programs tend to most of the provinces tend to require you to either have a job offer in that province, even living in that province, and also sometimes they look at applicants that have strong ties to the province. So for example, if you have family members to that province and things like that, that's all taken into consideration into the point system that works in that province. If you schooled in that province as well, there are provinces that have pathways that make it easier for international students that studied in the province to also get permanent residence. So there's no straight answer as to this is how it works. There are just so many different provincial programs, and they all have various requirements to them. And it really depends on what you qualify for and what you have the best fit for. A lot of times, even sometimes having a job offer in the province doesn't mean that you can apply for their provincial program, because those job offers to have extra requirement that that type of job offer needs to meet before you can apply. But it is such a great way to get to permanent residence. If you're able to identify a provincial pathway that you meet the eligibility requirements for and you can apply for permanent residence, it opens up the doors of opportunity for permanent residence for you. If it's express entry linked, you're going to get additional 600 points. If it's not express entry linked, the moment the province nominates you and you're outside of Canada, you're able to then apply for permanent residence through the federal government, through the PR portal, a complete different pathway. You're not competing with everyone in the express entry system and things like that. So we have a lot of clients in various situations, various different ways of using provincial nomination to get to PR. The key is looking at your profile, assessing it against all the various provincial programs that exist, and knowing which ones you meet the eligibility for to submit an expression of interest, or maybe just even apply through that province as well. Okay? All right. I hope that answered your question. Perfect. Let's go here. SM said under Manitoba nominee stream. I'm not sure what that question is, but we're going to go to Rosemary. Esther, Rosemary has a question here.
Hi, Rosemary. So your question is, hello, please. Can my husband and I have different express entry profiles? Will that impact our application? Also, can both of us have profiles for different PNP programs? Yeah, definitely. Both of you can have different express entry profiles. In fact, we advise it. If both of you are eligible, why not? Because you never know. One of you may be a better applicant. One of you may stand a better chance of getting invited. You never know. It could be the other one. So it's just best to have different express entry profiles. It will not impact your application because later on, if one of you gets an ITA, the other one doesn't need an express entry profile. You can just include your spouse as a dependent. And you can also have profiles for different PNP programs. The only thing is, if you do receive an ITA and you apply to that particular province, then you may want to withdraw your profiles with the other provinces. You might not want to put in an application with a different province, because there are provinces that they would refuse your application if you have two applications pending. So just keep that in mind. Once you receive the ITA with a province, then you just want to proceed with that application and perhaps withdraw any other applications that you may have.
Perfect. Absolutely. And we have clients that have, we created a profile for a particular client, and by the time we were done creating this client's express entry profile, it turned out that there were 2 additional provinces in Canada that they met eligibility for, and we went ahead and created profiles for them there. When you work with us to create your express entry profile, we're not just doing express entry. We're looking above and beyond, like what else are you eligible for? What else can you benefit for to help you get to permanent residence and things like that? So that's what you definitely want to do as well. Okay, CV has a question here, Sharon.
Okay, proof of funds, always a tricky one. Now, for a visiting visa or a visiting record, it's not quite the same as, say, for a study permit. It's not set in stone. There isn't a specific amount of money that you actually need. So for study permits and for permanent residence, there's a table, an IRCC created table where it tells you exactly how much you need. That's not the same for visitors, because it depends how long you're staying, what your accommodation situation is, who you're staying with, etc. So I don't know what your situation is. A visitor record application, is this for a dependent? Is this for you? Is this for Oh.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I thought that someone was talking to me. No. Okay. So if it's, say, for example, I don't know, if you're an international student in Canada and this is for one of your dependents, for example, then if it's a family application, so you're paying for a dependent, you would need to show that you still have enough money to pay for your remaining tuition fees, the living expenses, etc. So there isn't, the short answer is there isn't a set amount. There isn't like, you need X amount of money for a visitor record application. It needs to show that you have sufficient funds for your life in Canada. If you've got 1 month remaining in Canada, it's very different to if you've got 18 months remaining. You need to show that you've still got enough money as a family unit to pay for whatever is remaining for your time in Canada. If you're asking for an extension for a year and you've got $2,000 in your account, it's probably not going to be approved. If you're asking for an extension for 2 weeks and you've got $2,000 in your account, it's got a much more likely chance of being approved. So it depends on your situation, how long you want to stay, where you're living, what your tuition fee remaining is, if you're a student. So lots of different things to consider there.
Pathways, yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, Sharon. Nothing to add there. Olivia has a question here, an interesting one. BC.
Is that for me?
Yes, Esther, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the best PR stream for an international student applying for a master's in British Columbia? So, studying a master's in British Columbia. So if we're looking at the Provincial Nominee Program in British Columbia, the international postgraduate stream is a fantastic option. So first of all, you don't need a job offer from an employer to qualify for this stream. Also, it's a direct pathway. It's not an invitation-based stream. It's a direct pathway. You could just go ahead. As soon as you meet the eligibility requirements, you can apply to BCPNP. So that would be the best stream there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. Doing masters there, that's it. I know there is a change coming next year. So if you're graduating this year, definitely jump on the boat and use that opportunity and that master's stream that does exist right now to transition to PR. Yeah.
Just to jump in there, the master's programs in BC have to be in natural applied health or health sciences.
Yes.
It's very specific.
Very specific, yeah.
Master's programs in BC for the postgraduate program, your master's has to be in natural applied or health sciences. However, there is also an international graduate stream if you don't have a qualification in those natural applied or health sciences. So the master's and the PhD stream is very specific, whereas the international graduate stream, exactly like Florence and Esther said, you need a job offer, but it doesn't have to be in a specific program. And even if you're not qualified for that one, there's also the skilled worker stream in BC as well. So the main thing you need to get is a job offer. That's what you need to head for.
Yeah. Before we get to Oba's question here, one of the things that you will see a lot about Canadian immigration is, like, I always tell people, there's no yes or no answer. To answer a Canadian immigration question, you have to probably ask 10 more questions, just like you saw us do. Right? Yes, there's a master's graduate stream that looks really easy and straightforward, but then you heard what Sharon said. It's not for everybody. There's specific people. So you might have a master's degree, but does your master's degree qualify under that program? If it doesn't, then you're looking at another option and things like that. So with many immigration streams and pathways, and even a lot of things that we're saying here, there's a lot of more in-depth analysis that has to go in for you to even get a full picture of, are you eligible? Is this the best pathway for you to go through and things like that? So always remember, when you see any immigration program looks good on the top, go into the details. Go into, what do I qualify? What do I need to apply? Because that's where you will know for sure that you're able to apply for that particular pathway or not. Okay. Sharon, if you want to take Oba's question here.
Okay, what are my chances? That is a $1 million question. We have been the amount of times we've discussed whether the CRS score is going to come down under 500, and honestly, our prediction was that it would have come under 500 by now. So what IRCC are doing at the minute is literally anybody's guess. Everybody is just completely confused and surprised every time they do anything. They keep surprising us. It's like a game at the minute. So essentially, pre-COVID, 493 was a superb score. You like 493 would have got you in every draw. But since COVID, everything is a bit more up in the air. the scores haven't come down under 520 for, well, years, for the last few years. 493 is a brilliant score. I wouldn't want to promise that it's going to come down to that in the next year, because it hasn't in the last year. And we're still general draw looking at well over 520, 530s. So to be honest, we would need to know what your background is. So I know you're a pharmacist. You're working as a pharmacy assistant. If you've been working for 1 year in Canada, you might be potential for a Canadian experience class draw, which has just restarted last week, for which we are predicting, based on hope a lot of the time, that score is going to come down, because it's the first Canadian experience class draw they've done in over a year and a half, I think. Well over a year and a half. And with that being the first one, the only hope is that they're going to start doing more. And with more comes more people who are in that draw, which means people are taken out of the pool, which means it brings that score down. So if you've got 1 year of, or at the point where you've got 1 year of Canadian skilled work experience, you're going to move out of that general draw into the Canadian experience class draw, which sets you apart from all of the people who don't have that 1 year of work experience in Canada. In the meantime, there are ways that you can try and improve that score. You could learn French. That's by far the best way of trying to get into Canada at the moment. If you want to put a bit of time and effort into some French classes, there are different ways that you might be able to bump that score up. If you have a look at your score calculator, you've got 493 at the minute. What happens when you hit that 1 year mark? What happens if you were to able to add an intermediate level of French? Could you improve your English test score? Have you maxed out your IELTS score? That's another possibility. So different ways in which you can potentially boost that current score up. And that's something that we can help with as well. We often look at people, they say, well, I've got this in my score. And you say, yeah, but look at your calculator. If you did this, you could move up to this. In 6 months' time, you're going to move up to this. In the meantime, you could be doing this, this, and this. So it's not necessarily just a case of saying, well, I've got 493. I'll just have to wait and see what happens. There might be things that you could be doing in the meantime. There might be little things that you could say, do you know what? I'm going to dedicate a bit of time into this and boost my score up to, the 520s, 530s. So yeah, your chances are a tricky one. I don't know what your chances are.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sharon, for that. And lots of different things to look at, especially with the CEC draw starting. It was high. All program draws high. But when you say pharmacist, I'm a pharmacist from Nigeria. I did 1 year course, moved to Alberta, now working as a pharmacist assistant. It would be important for you to look at your overall work experience and the details of it, because pharmacist assistants are actually listed. Pharmacist assistants are actually listed as one of the occupations under the health draw. The health draw has gone as low as 422. So the last time they had one, it was 422. So if you have work experience in that particular NOC, and I'm going to share what that NOC is, the NOC there is 33103 for pharmacy assistant. And just like I answered the first question, when it comes to NOC code, I can't use your job title to tell if that's actually your NOC. We would have to look at your job description to confirm that it aligns with the National Occupation Code that Canada has put together. So if you fit in that and have had at least 6 months of work experience as a pharmacy assistant, you stand a good chance of receiving an invitation during the next health draw. So it would be important to look at your work experience. Did you start as a pharmacy assistant before you became a pharmacist? Is that work experience that you have supporting documents to back up and support? If that's the case, then you want to ensure that your expert-centric profile is presented in the right way. You have the right NOC codes in there so that you can be selected during the next draw that comes through. And if that doesn't happen, when you get to the 1 year of Canadian work experience, just like Sharon said, you have an option there. You can also explore other things as far as French, if that's something that you have time to do, to lead you to having options for your permanent residence and all of that. So I hope that helps. I think you do have a good chance if you can confirm your NOC and then see what IRCC is going to be doing with the draws and the health draws. So like I said, the health draws were really low. The last health draw was 422. So if you did have that knock code that I just mentioned, pharmacy assistant, you fell into that category, you could have received an ITA. So it might be important to look completely at your work experience to see where you fall and then assess yourself from there. All right, perfect. Okay, let's go on here. Can I apply? Favor has a question here. Can I apply for SOW and visa for my family after getting my study visa? Kindly note that I'm still in my home country, but I have a study visa already and I'm going for my master's. We had a situation like this, so I'm going to let Sharon talk to answer this particular question.
Okay, so a spousal open work permit and a visiting visa for my family after getting my study visa. I have my study visa already and I'm going for a master's. So you've already been approved for your study permit. This is what I'm reading from this situation. You've already been approved having applied a loan, and you now want to apply for your spouse to come on a spousal work permit and visiting visas for your children is my guess here. So yes, you can. So you've got an admission to a master's program, which means that you are eligible to apply for your spouse to come on a spousal open work permit and for your visiting visas for your family. So yes, you can. Yes is the short answer to that one, because you're going for a master's program. If it was a postgraduate diploma or a certificate or an undergraduate, you wouldn't be able to. But because it's a master's program under the new rules, yes, you can. Now, the thing to consider here is it doesn't necessarily mean that just applying for them they'll definitely get approved just because you did. Applying for them afterwards is a completely new application, which means they have to prove their own proof of funds. So show that you as a family, if you're all, they're going to come and join you, you need to have money as a family to pay for your remaining tuition fees, the living expenses for you, your spouse, and any of your dependents. So you're going to have to show the full proof of funds that you'll need for the duration of the course. And they'll also need to show they've got ties back home, because presumably when you applied, you said that one of your ties back home was your family. So if your family is now coming to visit, well, to come and spend the time with you in Canada, that means that tie is no longer there. So they'll need to show that they've got employment ties, suitable ties back home. Maybe that's school ties, maybe it's community ties, maybe it's assets, financial ties, etc. So they'll need to show, a full application. And you also will need to show your proof of you in Canada, proof of your school enrollment, proof of your your stamped study permit, your visa, everything like that. So yes, you can apply for them, but it's a completely new application showing that they will return at the end of your program because they will be tied to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Sharon. And I think, Favor, something very important there is it would be advisable to apply for them when you have arrived in Canada, because the policy is very clear on what they want to see. They want to see your letter of enrollment and that you actually hold a study permit at the time that you apply. Because right now you don't hold a study permit yet. The study permit is going to be issued to you at the border. Prior to the changes on March 19th, we were applying for our clients even before the spouse who was the student got into Canada. But since that announcement has been released, where the policy language has changed, so you want to be very careful about that and do it. Once you get in here and you have every other thing checked off, you can certainly go ahead and have that application in for them as well. Okay. All right. Anna has a question. I'll pass this on to you, Esther.
Hi, Anna. So under the CEC, do you need to have a job offer? No, you actually don't. So the main criteria for Canadian experience class is that you meet the minimum language requirement and you have 1 year of Canadian skilled work experience in the last 3 years. It doesn't necessarily need to be in one knock. It can be in different knocks. You can combine that work experience. But as long as you have 1 year of work experience and you meet the language requirements, you qualify. So you don't need a job offer.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. So if you had a job and now you don't have a job, but you've met the 1 year experience, you're good. And it's very important to note that the CEC experience, the Canadian experience that you have to use it to apply within the 3 years. If it's over 3 years since you've had that work experience, you can no longer count it for Canadian experience class. So use it when you have it, get your points up, and hopefully you can get an ITA soon as well. Okay. We have here, I'm a logistics analyst here, 3-job manufacturing firm. I'm not in IT department, but my job duties are similar to that of a data analyst tier 1. Please, can I apply for the STEM category with this knock? When you say, can I apply? I just want to be clear that with all of the categories that IRCC has, you cannot just apply. You submit your profile. And when you submit your profile and it matches your knock code matches the knock that is in demand in a particular category, then you would potentially receive an invitation to apply and all of that. Now, when it comes again, I'm going back to job title as well. I'm going to have my team here put the link to how to assess your knock code and determine if you have the right knock code. We have a blog on this on our blog. I would say you need to look into not just your job title, but what your job duties are. If your job duties are clearly more data analyst than it is logistic analyst, then by all means, you can use that knock code. That could be your primary knock code. That could be the knock code for your job, and you can apply. So it's really going to come down to what your employment reference letter would say, and it's going to come down to how it's aligned with the particular knock code that you use. I'll give you an example. I had a client whose job title was financial director. That was her job title. And she used financial director to apply for PR, and she was refused. When she came to us and we assessed the application, we realized that her knock was just a financial analyst. What she did was equivalent to what an analyst would do in Canada. So even though she had a financial director title, we selected the knock code of a financial analyst, and that second application was approved. And there was a series of examples like this where people are refused just because they have selected the wrong knock code. So to better answer your question, more in-depth analysis would need to be done on the knock code to confirm that it is indeed data analyst. And if it is, then that gives you an opportunity there. Talking about just with you being in the logistics as well, it's also important for you to look at the transportation category as well. Look at the jobs, the knock codes in the transportation category to see if any of your work experience is aligned with that as well. So explore all of those options to see exactly where you fall in to get the best option there. Okay? All right. Thank you. A Kenyan citizen. Naya Gero is a Kenyan citizen who wants to get to Canada. And I see your follow-up question here. How can I make sure I'm not scammed? I do have a video on our YouTube channel. If you check out our YouTube channel on how to verify who your consultants are and the people you're working with. Funny story, we had an email that came to us, and someone, of course, wanted to verify. And this person, my team gave him our website, the video that I've done on how to verify your consultants that you're working with, and he went on there and verified all of our consultants. So you'll find the consultant, Esther, Sharon, they're all listed on our page there as a team working here at InfoPlace Canada. So we are legit, and we have code of ethics and professional ethics to abide by, and we serve our clients to the best of our ability. So if you're looking for a team to work with, the great place to always start would be that one-on-one initial consultation where they can review your profile and advise on exactly what the best options would be for you and things like that. Okay. All right, let's go here. Kadi has a question. I'll pass this on to you, Esther.
Okay, so the question is, I would love to go through the permanent resident route with your organization, but I would love to ask for someone with HIV status. Is it possible for me as a single mother? To be honest, I'm not sure. I haven't worked with HIV. It would depend. There is a threshold. So if it passes the threshold that IRCC has set, then you become medically inadmissible. But I'm not sure if HIV passes that threshold. Florence, would you have any information on that? Sharon,
go ahead. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. I had somebody with this exact question probably last week, and it doesn't. HIV, having HIV does not exclude you from a permanent residence pathway at all. It it's exactly like Esther said. It depends on the treatment you require. It depends on whether you're medically inadmissible. But actually having HIV doesn't make you medically inadmissible. It would depend on the cost of your treatment and whether you would be deemed to be a burden on the Canadian healthcare system. But it doesn't exclude you. It's not one of the medical issues that excludes you from applying.
Yeah, and there's certainly steps, and there'll be more exams that you'll probably do by having a condition like that, and certain steps that IRCC typically wants people with these conditions to do and disclose in any province and any place that they're going to be in Canada as well. So you should be good to go if you meet all the other requirements. Yeah. Okay. Sharon, you could take this one.
Okay, I'm a healthcare worker back home. I now have an LMIA in Tier 4 as a PSW, but the proof of funds is my problem. Okay, I'm a healthcare worker back home. I have an LMIA. Okay, so you have a job offer in Canada as a personal support worker with an LMIA. Okay, so that means you can apply for a work permit to come to Canada. So the proof of funds is your problem. I feel like I need a bit more information on this. So what you're doing, you're not applying for permanent residence. I'm assuming you're applying for a work permit. Is that what we're getting from this one?
Yeah. So I think this person is applying for a work permit. So if you've already gotten a job offer to come to Canada with LMIA, the requirement for proof of funds is a little bit lower than if you didn't have a job to come. So if you have enough money to cover your flight ticket to arrive here, you have that job offer that tells you when you arrive, you're going to be making XYZ money. If you look at the requirements on the IRCC website for applying for a work permit like this, you'll see that proof of funds is not the top front center of it. You just need to convince IRCC that you're going to have enough money to cover. And a lot of times the company that you're working for will be covering some of your travel and relocation costs as well. So all of these things are the things that you'll need to put together in your application to make a case for you and also show that when I arrive, I already have a job waiting for me. I'm going to be starting to work right away. So proof of funds really comes in when you're like, I'm coming to Canada. I don't know where I'm going to make money from. How am I going to survive? That's where it comes from. In your situation, you have a job already. You just need to show them that you have enough money to transport you down here, and then you can start working as well. I hope that helps and answers your question, because that's what we're thinking that this is. Okay. All right. Thank you. Perpetua has a question here. Esther, I'm going to throw this one back to you. What if the two courses are not related? Can I still get a 3-year PGWP?
Yeah, that's totally fine. If the two courses are not related, you can, like, I've encountered cases where individuals, they've studied, they've taken a business course and then they've decided after they finish that business course to take a healthcare course. That's completely fine. They don't have to be related. You'll still get your 3 years postgraduate work permit as long as you met the conditions that were required of you as a study permit holder, and as long as the combined duration is 2 years or more.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, that's it. It's pretty straightforward. It doesn't have to be related to your program and all of that. So that should be fine. We're going to try to answer the lots of questions that have come in. So we're going to try to answer people that we've not answered before. V, I see your question again, but we're going to skip that one and get to questions that we have not answered here. So if your question is not complete, I'm also going to pass on that as well. Inez has a question here. Hello, Kid. Please, can we provide employment letter and pay stub from previous employment for PGWP, since we can't work until PGWP is received? Also, will the pay stub of spouse suffice? That question is not really clear. Are you applying for a PGWP, or are you applying for your spouse's work permit? It's not very clear. Maybe if you provide a little bit more clarity, we might be able to answer that one for you. Ronald has a question here. Hi, InfoPlace. My name is Ronald Okoro. Please, I want to know about the new pilot program. I'm based in the UK and I have 4 years of work experience in the health sector. And my missus has just been granted a study visa. I can't work under the new rules because our program doesn't allow spouse to work. Am I eligible to apply for the new pilot program as a visitor in Canada? Now, I'm not sure the new pilot program that you're talking about. I'm thinking it's the RNIP ones that will be coming into effect in the fall. Any of those pilot programs that does exist that you meet eligibility for, you would be able to apply for it, because people even outside of Canada can apply for it. So it would be fair game for you as well. If you can come into Canada as a visitor, there are other ways that you can get a work permit. If you're able to find an employer who wants to hire you based on your skill set, get you an LMIA, and they can get you a closed work permit as well. One of the things too that we're telling clients is the fact that you don't qualify now that your spouse is a student doesn't mean that you wouldn't qualify when they're eligible to apply for PGWP, because when they apply for PGWP and they have a full-time job in Canada, at that time, you will be eligible to apply for your own spousal open work permit as well. So it might just be a time thing, but definitely look out on the pilot programs. You should be eligible to apply as a visitor in Canada or even from outside of Canada as well, if you meet the requirements for that particular program. Okay. Toti has a question here about the new Citizenship Act. It's been proposed. I'm not going to speak much about it because it's been proposed. It's not been passed yet. We're hoping to get more information about it, and then we will definitely share more and talk more about that when we have more details, but not at this time. Okay. Temitayo has a question. I'll pass this to you, Sharon.
Okay, can I apply for PR through the International Student Stream in Ontario after graduating in August this year, having started in January? So does that mean that your program was 8 months, which may technically be classified as a 1-year program? I currently work as a branch sales coordinator at a commercial paint store. I have a husband and 3 children here with me in Canada. So I'm just going to pull up the requirements for the International Student Stream in Ontario and just kind of talk through what those might be. Now, as Florence said, provincial nomination programs are multifaceted. There are about 80 of them in Canada. There are so many different streams, and they all have different requirements. So I'm not going to be able to tell you 100% whether you're going to be able to apply through the International Student Stream, because it will depend on your language, your background, your work experience. It will depend on lots of things. But what I can tell you is for the International Student Stream, you have a job offer. You currently work as a branch sales coordinator, and you have your husband and 3 children. So the first thing you need is a job offer. Under that, the first thing you need is having graduated from a program in Ontario. But the most important thing is your job offer. Now, the job offer requirement needs to be full-time and permanent. So it needs to have no end date. It needs to be at least 30 hours per week, and it needs to be in a skilled occupation at 0, 1, 2, or 3 of the NOC codes, at tier category 0, 1, 2, or 3. So I don't know what branch sales coordinator would come under. Like we've said a few times, it would very much depend on the duties that you do within that role. But if it's classed as skilled work in 0, 1, 2, or 3, then it would come under that category. And if you've only recently graduated, then that would be fine. The one thing that a lot of people get stuck on with regards to Ontario streams is that the employer also needs to be on board with this and support your PR application. So it's not just a case of saying, I've got a job offer, here's my work contract. The employer needs to complete an employer document, which has got lots of information in it about their revenue, how many employees they have, how many Canadian employees they have, how long they've been in business, whether they're subject to any legal procedures. And some employers don't want to release that information to their employees. Mm-hmm. Some employers don't want to release that information at all. So it would be worth you going to talk to your employer. And I often say to people, I don't know what your relationship is with your employer. If you've got a good relationship, are there people at your employment who already are permanent residents who came through the International Student Stream? If the company already employs lots of international people, there's a good chance they're going to be willing to support it. If it's just a company full of Canadians and you're the only international person, maybe not. So what you want to do is go and say to them, here is the page. Go and see HR at your company and say, here is the page. Here is what the employer requirements are. So my employer needs to provide this, financial documents, etc., etc. Would you be willing to do that? Because I would love to apply for permanent residence and continue working for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to go and speak to the employer. And the other thing is to probably point out to the employer, you don't need to provide this information to me. If you support my application by providing this, you can send it directly to the Ontario Provincial Program. It doesn't have to go through me. I don't even have to see it. All this employment documentation, etc., can go straight from the employer to the OINP, which is the Ontario International Nomination Program. It can bypass you as the applicant completely. So it's worth talking to your employer about that, because it looks like, from what I can see, you may well be eligible for that program, but you would need the support of the employer providing you with that documentation.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much, Sharon. Complete. Well said. What's required of a person to apply for a tourist visa for the first time? I'm in Saudi Arabia. Thank you for your question. As a tourist in Canada, you have to have three main things. One, sufficient funds to cover your planned visit to Canada. And then how do we determine how much those funds are? It depends on your planned visit to Canada. What are you planning to do? Coming as a tourist, what city are you going to stay in? What type of touristy activities are you going to be doing? What parts of Canada will you be exploring during that time? And how much will it cost you to do that? And then, of course, the third thing and then your flight ticket, of course, you have to think about your transportation down here, your accommodation, your day-to-day living, your touristy activity, put all that together and determine what that budget is and up it a bit from what you calculate. And then the third thing that you want to think about is remembering that a visitor's visa to Canada is a temporary residence visa, and IRCC expects that you prove to them that when you come, if you told them you'll come for 1 week or 1 month, at the end of your visit that you're going to leave Canada. And how do you prove that? You prove that through your ties document. So when we say ties to your home country or your country of residence, we're looking at what do you have in those countries that would facilitate your return? Do you have a family that you'll be leaving behind? Do you have job offers, job employment that you'll be going back to? Do you have a leave letter supporting your application? Do you have a business? Do you have a business that is active and operational, running in the country that you're coming from? Do you have financial assets? Do you have investments in your home country? Those are the types of things that you'll be looking at to show ties, to convince IRCC that I'm just coming as a visitor. I'm not coming to stay more than just visit Canada and go back to where I am to do the things that I have to do. So we do assist with visitors visa application. We even have a dedicated visiting visa consultation as well. So if you want to talk more about your unique case, you can explore that. We have a nice blog post as well on our website that talks about what you would need for visiting visas and things like that. So you can search our news hub, and when you go in there, just search visiting visa application and you'll see that as well. So I hope that answers your question. It's very, very easy. It's very straightforward. I wouldn't say easy. It's pretty straightforward to get a visitor's visa to Canada. You don't have to know anybody or have anybody here. You just have to have a good plan of visiting and exploring Canada and a plan to leave at the end of your stay. All right, Lola. Lola has a question here. Esther, I'm going to pass this on to you.
Hi, Lola. So I applied for a Canadian visa last year and my visa was denied. I didn't get the GCMS note, and then I got admission to the US. I applied for a visa there and got denied too. Now I am planning on reapplying for the Canadian study permit since I deferred my admission. What are my chances of getting a visa? So my first recommendation would be get the GCMS notes, because those are detailed immigration officer's notes that would tell you the reason why you got rejected. Look at what's in the notes. Address that reason. So if proof of funds were a concern, have that addressed. If ties were a concern, have that addressed in this application. As long as you package a very strong application this time around, you meet all the requirements, you could still have your application get approved. In fact, many of our clients that come to us, they did the application themselves the first time, or they had an agent that handled their application. It got rejected. They came to us for their second or their third application, and those applications were approved. So getting a refusal doesn't mean it's the end of the road for you, that is it. You can still overcome that decision. You could still get an approval. It's just a matter of putting in a strong application this time around and ensuring that you address the concerns in your very first application.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you very much, Esther. Very, very important to get those GCMS notes. We've had clients who have had multiple refusals. I think there was this guy, there was one client from last year where when the team did a story about his approval, it was like series of refusals from so many countries, but we were able to work with him and get a Canadian study permit approval. So it is possible, but it's not easy. You have to put up a tough fight to IRCC to convince them that you have a good plan, and you have to have everything in place. Like, you can't leave any stone unturned when you're doing this. And just like Esther said, definitely get that GCMS note, because it's always a great starting point to help you as well. Okay. All right. Olivia has a question here. Do you require proof of funds for express entry after nomination by a province? Yes, absolutely. If you're going through the express entry system, you're going to have to show that proof of funds. So ensure that you have your proof of funds ready and available for you when you're going to be submitting your application. It has to be liquid, in liquid form, cash money that you're going to be able to access once your PR is approved and you're coming into Canada and things like that. So it is very important to have that. Reginald has a question here. Sharon, I'll let you take this one.
Okay, I'm completing a postgraduate diploma in cybersecurity in a private college. If I'm able to secure full-time work, can I easily switch my status to worker? I'm guessing from this information. Again, I need to talk to you. I need more information on this one. So you're completing your postgraduate diploma. Are you suggesting that you want to switch your status to a worker after you finished your program, or you want to quit your program and switch to a worker? Because if it's in a private college, there's a possibility you might not be eligible for a postgraduate work permit. I'm wondering if that's your question, because if your program is postgraduate work permit eligible, then you'll be able to complete your program, apply for your postgraduate work permit, and work there, because that will give you an open work permit. If it's not eligible for a postgraduate work permit, then if you can secure full-time work which has an LMIA, you would be able to apply for a closed work permit. So the LMIA that we talked about earlier on during the session, which is the Labour Market Impact Assessment, if you just get a job after you've graduated, you can't just switch. You can't just say, well, now I'm a worker. That work permit, you'll need an LMIA. The employer will need to show proof that they couldn't find a Canadian to do that job and they had to hire a foreign worker. That's the way in which you'll be able to switch what was a study permit into a work permit, as long as you've got a full-time job offer that comes with this Labour Market Impact Assessment. So that's the very important thing. It's not quite as simple as just saying, I was a student and now I'm a worker.
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, perfect. No, that really helps. I think I lost our line of questions here. Okay, yeah, I think I got it back. Good. Lessa has a question here. Apply for Canadian visa since March, and my biometrics, it only shows in progress. Visiting visa, depending on the country you're applying for, sometimes can take a really long time. If you look at the processing time online, and it's as exceeded processing time for your country of residence, you can submit an IRCC web form requesting an update on the application to see if anything can be done. When you're requesting an update, I always say have a good reason to reach out to IRCC to request an update. If processing time has not elapsed, don't reach out to them, wait, and hopefully they'll get to it. But if you have a good reason, the purpose to which you are coming is coming up and all of that, you could use that as a reason to reach out to IRCC as well. Okay. Esther, this is for you. Aurel Lua has a question.
Okay, hi there. So can I add my husband and son to my profile? I am in Canada and they won't be joining me here until December. Also, do we both need to write IELTS or is mine enough? So yes, you can definitely add your husband. You can add your son to your profile. That's not an issue. Typically what we recommend is if this is an express entry profile that you're talking about, you definitely want to include your spouse unless there's a reason why they won't be accompanying you to Canada unless they have a very good reason for doing so. We recommend writing that the two of you write IELTS, just because you are going to get more points for that if your spouse writes it. Also, the other recommendation that I would like to make is have your spouse get his ECA report, so the educational credential assessment. That would also give you additional points. So if possible, have your husband do both of those things and add him to your profile. Absolutely.
Great. Awesome. Well, coming up here to our hour is an hour Q&A session. We're about to wrap up. But before we do, there are 6 times the people that joined us here at the beginning right now in the session. So thank you so much for joining our Q&A session today. One of the things that I want to mention here for a lot of people here, you probably have followed us on our Instagram page on Instagram. The page is still on Instagram. However, a week ago, we got logged out and I've been having issues getting back in, and we are working with Meta to get this resolved. They said everything is fine, but for whatever reason, we're not able to get back in. So what we've done, because there's so much happening in immigration, there's always lots of breaking news, and we love and enjoy keeping you all up to date with what's happening with immigration, inspiring you, seeing what's happening, telling you what we're winning, cases we're winning, and changes that we're doing with our services and things like that. So we have created a backup page, and I think I pinned that here a few minutes ago. We've created a backup page on our on Instagram. It is at InfoPlace Canada BKUP. So please follow the page. That's where we're going to continue sharing information and keeping you updated until we're able to have our previous account back. And you can share this as well with anyone that you know that might need or follow us and things like that, just because we're doing this to make sure that you know where we are. There are also lots of pages out there on Instagram that we've seen that have impersonated us. We've reported these pages and things like that as well, but we want to make sure that when you're talking to us, you are talking to InfoPlace Canada. And when in doubt, please send an email. Our contact us is still at InfoPlace, ask@infoplacecanada.ca. I shared and I have pinned a direct contact us form here that gets into our system for if you have any questions, you have inquiries, we're not able to answer your question today, you want to still reach out to the team, please use that contact us form, and my team and I would be more than happy to work with you to answer your questions and navigate through the services and the things that you would need from us as well. In addition to all of these contacts I've said, our website is still a fantastic place to contact us from. We have you can subscribe to our new to our page so that you get updated when we have new blog. There's new news releases. We do send out monthly newsletters as well. So subscribe on there, and you can actually contact us right through the website as well. So the different ways that you can reach us, but follow us on all of these places. And most importantly, when you're unsure how to reach us, our phone number and our email is always a great option to reach out to the team as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We're going to take more questions here for another 5-6 minutes, and then we will end our session for today. And when I started the session today, I said that we would most likely have a weekly Q&A session like this to reach out to you, answer questions for our community, because there's a lot of questions that come in our DMs and emails that we feel like we can answer and other people can watch and learn from it as well. So that's what we're going to be doing with the various consultants that we have on our team. Okay. All right. I got a provincial attestation letter last week, but I want to know the probability rate of getting a study permit. Sharon.
Okay, getting the provincial attestation letter, it does no way guarantee you to get your study permit. They're not linked.
Yeah.
So by getting, lots of people will be given provincial attestation letters who will then go on to get the study permit, and many who will not go on to get a study permit. That it's not a pathway. So you've got your provincial attestation letter, which is great. That means that you can now apply for your study permit. But the probability of actually getting your study permit depends on what's in your study permit application. Whether it's a good purpose of study, whether you've got enough money, whether you've got good ties. So that's what it depends on, not dependent on the attestation letter.
Attestation letter, yes, that's it. And it's very important to have a strong application. If you're not already aware, there's a quota this year. IFCC is reducing the number of international students, so Depending on the program that you're in, you want to get in your application on time. So then, of course, you're able to get in and all of that as well. Okay, Lola has a question. If I'm here as a student and extended my study permit, didn't get extended for my child who is a US citizen, can I apply online to extend her study permit for her alone? Absolutely, you can. And great question that you're asking, because we've seen people who have come in with their kids who are American citizens or British citizens, and they forget to extend their status as well. They're only allowed, even if they're allowed to enter Canada, they're only allowed to enter for a period of 6 months, or the date that has been stamped on their passport when they enter. So it's important to apply before that time so that they are not out of status, because if they are, then that causes a different problem entirely. So at this point, you can go ahead and apply on your own to get her a study permit online. Esther, this one. Can I use my late parents' estate as I'm still in the process of getting proof of home ties for my visa application?
Definitely. So if the plan is for your parents to pass on the estate, if you have documentation to show that, to prove that once they pass away, you will have their estate, then I would say definitely you can include that as proof of home ties.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. We've actually had clients who have used those even for like study permits applications and things like that as well. So it's good if you have documents to support it. Our fees, Amma, depends on our services. We're a professional firm and we have fees for our services. Our services are not free. Our services are also not for everyone. It is for people who don't have the time to do the application themselves, need that professional guidance, the expertise to look into the application and ensure that their applications are completed properly. So if you are able to do your application by yourself on your own, just like people here have mentioned, you can certainly go ahead and complete your application, because yes, application fees for IRCC is $150. But when you're getting professionals, lawyers, licensed consultants to represent you on an application, there will be a fee for that service to represent you through that application. All right. If I work with InfoPlace, will you be the one helping me on my PR application? Yes, we do work with our clients, the whole 9 yards. We have clients who have started with us from a simple consultation to a study permit to PGWP to extension to work permit, whatever, all the way to permanent residence. We have some of these stories on our page. We are here for you. We're not just here for one application, but for every application that you need a licensed firm that has experience and is committed to see your application successful, you want to reach out to us, and we're more than happy to work with you on this application that you're working on and any other future application as well. So just complete that contact us form that I shared, and then we will be more than happy to work with you. Essie has a question here. Could I apply for PR through International Student Stream in Ontario after graduation in August? What requirements must I need that relates to this? Sharon, I think you talked about this a little bit. Maybe just give another overview for the students for SE here.
Okay, Essie, no, you don't need a job that relates to your program of study. It's a good question, though, because a lot of provinces do ask for that.
Yes.
And lots of different streams within those provinces may ask for that. Some do, some don't. But for the OIMP International Student Stream, you don't need a job offer that is related to your program of study. You don't need a job offer that's related to what you've done previously. You just need a job offer in a skilled occupation. So it needs to be full-time. It needs to be permanent. So it can't be for 4 months. It can't be contract work. It can't be seasonal work. I did actually see there was another question here that asked about contract work. So there's kind of kills two birds with one stone here. Yeah. If it's a contract job that's only for 4 months, or if it's casual, no, it won't count. It needs to be full-time, no end date. It needs to be permanent, so 30 hours a week or more. And it can be any occupation, provided it's a skilled occupation.
Skilled occupation. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Sharon. Okay, Rachel Serrano has a question here. Esther, can you take this one? this is it.
Hi, Rachel. So with the 1 year CEC, do I need a bank statement when applying for express entry? No. So if you were invited under CEC, you actually don't need to provide your proof of funds, and therefore a bank statement is not required.
Yes, absolutely. And that's for CEC. Yeah. Hi, thanks for all you do. How urgently can you respond to a procedural fairness letter after a provincial, from a provincial nomination? It would depend. How quickly we would respond would really depend on the timelines that you have. We really pride ourselves in doing a detailed work on applications, and we don't take cases that we need to rush. So a lot of times when people reach out to us, we have to look at our capacity to see if we can deliver quality work. We give our all on every single application. So we have to check to see what timelines do you have? Do you have just 1 day left? If you have 1 day left, we're not going to be able to help you because we're not going to be able to do our due diligence to represent you and guide you to respond to that procedural fairness. So a lot of times you're given 7 days. If you receive a procedural fairness letter and you need us to step in, you need to reach out to us immediately. And when it comes in, my team is aware of the priority that is placed on requests like this. We quickly jump on board, assess it immediately, and let you know if we can help you. Within 24 hours, we will know. You will get a response if we can work with you or not, if it's a procedural fairness request that's coming in, because there's always tight deadlines associated with it. So if you have one right now that you received and you need to tackle it, complete that contact us form. I'm going to share the link again. Get into the team and let's look at it and see if we can work with your timelines and things like that. And truthfully, there are times that we're not able to, and instead of us doing a half-assed job, we will pass on to that or refer you to another firm of ours that a colleague firm of ours that can actually help you, fellow representatives like us that can help you properly as well on your case. So I'm going to share the link for our intake form again, contact us form. If you have something like that, send that in and my team would get on top of that right away. Okay, thank you. I really want to get a job in Canada, but I don't have enough English. How do I deal with that situation? And do I have a chance to study there? You would probably need English language to be able to have a chance to come to Canada to study and things like that. So it's very important to get that, or even to get a job. A lot of times that gets assessed as well. What you can do is try to start learning English so that you increase your chances of being able to come here as well. And let me tell you, I'm just going to skip and get a question from someone who has not asked because we're running out of time here. We want to see how many extras we could do here. Adam has a question. I just completed my postgraduate certificate program at Trent University and got a 4-month offer at the Ministry of Finance. Can I file for express entry with that offer? Esther, over to you. What can this person do? Okay, and so the person also had added an extra detail here. I have more than 5 years work experience as an accountant and an admin officer outside of Canada. So that gives us a better picture.
Okay, so to qualify for CEC, you need to have 1 year of skilled work experience in Canada and meet the language requirements. That skilled work experience must be in a skilled occupation. So as long as this job is considered skilled, that would give you 4 months, but you need an additional 8 months to qualify for Canadian experience. After you qualify for Canadian experience, please note express entry is an invitation-based system. So even if you qualify, even if you meet the eligibility requirements, you can't go ahead and submit a PR application. You would need to meet the cutoff, so the CRS cutoff, and get invited to apply for permanent residency. So my recommendation is you would want to gain that 1 year of Canadian work experience, qualify for it, ensure that your points are high enough, you're competitive enough to receive an invitation. Now, with your 5 years of work experience as an accountant and administrative officer, you may actually qualify for FSW. My advice is if you qualify for FSW and you have the 67 eligibility points, create your express entry profile, get in the pool, because you never know, you could meet one of the requirements. You could be invited under the category draws through express entry and get invited before you have that 1 year of Canadian work experience. So definitely book a consultation with us so we can check your eligibility score, your CRS score, and then let you know what your chances are.
Awesome. And I should just peg in there as well, for if anyone is listening here to us and you're an international student in Canada and you have prior work experience from your home country, don't think that you have to wait until you graduate to start exploring your PR options. If you have work experience from your home country, you may be eligible to create an express entry profile. If you have your language test scores, your ECA and all of that, get in the pool. About 2 weeks ago, one of our clients, who is still a student, arrived last year for a 2-year program, became a permanent resident while still an international student. And we've had many other clients over the years who have done this. So especially with how things are right now getting to PR, explore your options ahead of time. Also, even if maybe you're not able to create that profile and get started your PR right now, having a consult and exploring these options upfront prepares you ahead, so that you know what you need to do. If you need work experience, you know that I can't play with applying for a job. I need to get that as soon as possible. If you've had prior work experience, you could start gathering supporting documents for that on time, just in case you qualify under any of the categories. What you want to do right now is get in the express entry pool. Your scores may be low, but get in there. In 2021, IRCC had a CEC draw where they invited applicants with scores as low as 75 from the express entry pool. And I've always told people, clients of ours, create an express entry profile no matter how low your points are, because you don't know what the government will do. You don't know what IRCC will do. CEC draws have started. We don't know what's going to happen. So you want to always ensure that you're available for any opportunity that may come through. And when in doubt, when unsure where to start, what to do, come to us. And it's not just creating the express entry profile. I'd also mentioned this earlier on, that a client that comes to us just to create express entry profile, but walked away with 3 profiles, because we were able to look at and see that the clients had eligibility in various other provinces in Canada based on their own profile and work experience and having family ties in Canada. And we were able to do those additional profiles. So then anything can happen and they get that option to get to permanent residence as well. Okay, thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing the knock code link there. I think that's great. Let's look at one Usi's question here. We have 10 more minutes to go here. Okay, Usi has a question. Sharon, you can take this one.
Okay, my spouse applied for an extension of visiting visa. He put in an application for both of us, but his was approved within 2 weeks. Mine have not been looked at. What do you recommend? Please, do I create an independent profile? So were these 2 separate applications, or was this a family application where one of you was the primary applicant and one of you was a dependent? So I don't know, from reading your information, I don't know who was which way around. Is one of you a student and one of you a dependent? Is one of you working and one of you a dependent? His is approved in 2 weeks. Yours has not been looked at. I mean, does that just mean you don't have a decision on yours because you wouldn't necessarily know how much has been looked at and how much hasn't? Do I create an independent profile? No, don't put another application in if you still got a pending one. The best thing to do would be, firstly, have a look at the IRCC timelines, see what their current processing time is for extending a TRV. If you are outside of that timeline, then I would recommend sending a web form, sending a web form to IRCC, and don't be accusatory, but just say, I applied for a temporary resident visa. My spouse's has now been approved, and I am asking for an update, politely requesting for an update for mine. But the thing to consider is, if it's still within their given timeline, their processing time at the minute, they don't really like people constantly asking them for updates, this, that, and the other. So, sometimes we've had someone just recently who applied for their family, and every family member had got an approval for a visiting visa and one of them hadn't. And 5 months later, the one who hadn't got any decision had a refusal. So it doesn't always come together. It doesn't always kind of perfectly match that if one of you is approved, everybody else is going to be approved. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the situation is with this. What you could do is apply for the GCMS notes. So go through the IRCC website, apply for GCMS notes, because you can do that before a decision comes in, just to see where it's up to. Because on there, you'll be able to see the detailed notes of what they've done, what they're doing, what they're planning to do, everything that's been done so far. So I'd say apply for the GCMS notes, because then you'll be able to see whether there's a problem, whether they've hit an obstacle somewhere. And also look at the current processing time. If it's outside of that current processing time, just send a polite request via web form and just say, my spouse has been approved on this date. I'm just asking for an update on whether mine is being processed too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sharon. That's amazing. Rachel has one more question here, and I think this one is, I'm just going to pop that up here. Yes, if you're sickle cell, you can apply for permanent residence. We've had clients who are sickle cell, and it did not impact their permanent residence application. They were still able to apply. And someone has a nice message here for us. Thank you so much, Jovi House, to Kojo. Thank you so much for this. We really appreciate it. I was so happy that we were able to help as well. Thank you so much. And PMK has a question here. I'm already working in Canada with LMIA. I want to apply through Express Entry. You should already have an Express Entry profile. It sounds like you might check off a lot of requirements to have an Express Entry profile, and even having a job with an LMIA would give you some extra brownie points in your Express Entry profile. So if you've not created one already, you should get with that. You're not sure how to do it, definitely send us a message, submit a contact us form, and we're more than happy to work with you to create that profile as well. If you even have up to 1 year work experience in Canada, you're already in that Canadian experience class category. You have a firm work experience, you're already in the FSW category as well. So it seems like you already have options without us doing a little bit of assessment, especially if you have language test. So if you have your language test, CELPIP or IELTS, and it meets the minimum requirements, get started. Just get started. Okay, we have 5 more minutes. Lucy has a question here. Esther, I want you to take this one.
So hi, Lucy. So your question is, my study permit restoration was rejected last year. I can't come up with funds to reapply or pay for school. Please, can I apply for agency PR? So my question would be, are you in Canada? Are you in Canada, or did you leave Canada? If you're still in Canada, that is a possibility that you can explore. However, I would say proceed with caution. Perhaps book a consultation with us first, because to be eligible to get a PR through agency, you must have very compelling reasons and circumstances to be granted PR under that particular pathway. Also, if you take a look at the processing time, it could be a year, 2 years, sometimes even 3 years before IRCC makes a decision on your application. That means that you would be living in Canada without status, without lawful status in the country while you're waiting for a decision on your application, while you're waiting for that first stage approval, right? And even then, at the very end of the day, it might not get approved. If the sole reason for applying for agency is because you can't come up with the funds to reapply or pay for school, I'm going to tell you right away, that's not a good reason to apply for agency. You may want to explore the option of going back to your home country and applying for a new study permit from there. That is something that you can explore. You could also look into the option of a TRP. So there's different pathways that you can look at, but typically what we recommend is applying for agency as a last resort.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much, Esther, for explaining that. Because yeah, it is typically looked at more as a last resort for our application. We have 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes left here to go. But before I read the next question, following the LMIA question here, Sharon has a resource that a link she's going to share of LMIA approved, basically approved LMIA links on the job bank, so that if you're looking for a job and you want to find, and you're trying to find an employer that is approved for LMIA already, that link is going to help you. So these are some little things and benefits that you're getting from being a part of this as well. So she's going to share that. So copy that, explore it. If you're looking for a job, see if you can find work with those employers that already have the LMIA as well. Okay. Kadi, I see your message. Definitely send us an email, and we'll be more than happy to take on your case. Complete that initial contact us form that we've submitted, and you'll be able to get into to work with our team as well. There's a question here for Emanuela has a question here. I have an admission to Niagara Falls, also 3 years experience as a kitchen assistant, cleaner after completion of my studies. Can I use this practice for my PR application? Again, it all depends on the details of the job. When it comes to especially Express Entry, it's the NOC code. Is it NOC 0123? Do you have supporting documents for it? Do you have the language test scores? You meet the requirements for one of the programs in the express entry system, or is there a provincial program that you meet requirements for? This is, again, is a situation where for us to answer that question is a yes or no, we need to ask so much more question and complete a deep and in-depth assessment of your profile. So if you have this type of question, my recommendation is always schedule a one-on-one session with one of our consultants. We have 4 experienced consultants on the team that can definitely work with you through and see exactly what your options would be. But with studying in Canada, already you're going to have a boost as well when you graduate and get points and things like that. And you don't even need to wait till graduate, depending on your overall profile as well. Okay. Adenike has a question here. Sharon, do you want to take this one?
Okay, I live in Sweden, but I would like to migrate to Canada. I'm a nurse. I have a master's degree in public health. Am I eligible? Like we've said to a lot of people, eligibility is a very broad topic. As a nurse, you definitely have a good possibility of being selected through one of the targeted draws, which is healthcare, depending on a lot of other things. So you have a master's degree, that's great. That'll give you a lot of points. Have you taken a language test? What you want to do is take a language test and try and maximize your scores there. Try and get the best possible scores you can. So language test, previous education is a master's, previous work experience as a nurse. This would depend. Was it full-time? Was it paid? How long did you do it for? If it was for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, this will give you more points the more years that you've done it. There's certainly a possibility that you could be selected in this healthcare draw because you have a healthcare occupation in your background. I don't know how many points you would have. We'd have to do an in-depth assessment of whether you would have points, whether you'd be eligible, how many points you would have. The fact that you live in Sweden doesn't matter. You can be anywhere outside of Canada or inside of Canada. You can be anywhere in the world and apply for permanent residence, depending on your eligibility requirements. So I would highly recommend, if you would like, to book a consultation with us. We'll go through all of your background, do a real in-depth look at all of your eligibility requirements. We can add up your points calculator. We can talk about how you could improve your points, talk about different pathways, all sorts of things. But certainly a master's degree and previous work experience as a nurse is a very good start.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We are 1 minute, almost 2 minutes over our time here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the session today. We are going to stop here. If we could keep going for 4 hours and more, and the questions will keep pouring. We're just looking through some of them here. And I'll just say general things that would probably capture a lot of the questions that I'm seeing here. If you have applications pending with IRCC that you've not heard back in a while, and you want to do another application that is different from the one you did the first time, you have the option to cancel the previous application if you no longer need that application. If you still want that application to come through, then you want to write to IRCC and request an update in a very nice and polite way. Give them a good reason why you're bugging them and asking for an update on that application, and send that in to them. It's very, very important to do that. If you're looking to apply for study permit, the game has changed. It's not business as usual as it used to be. You need to put in a strong application. Getting a provincial attestation is not enough to get you a study permit approval. You have to, especially funds, we see lots of clients come to us with refusals based on proof of funds, and we spend a lot of time with our clients just making sure that your proof of funds makes sense. It's not just enough to have a bank statement that has the balance of funds that IRCC wants to see. You want to be able to explain the source of your funds. Where's the money coming from? You need to convince IRCC that it's your money. And this is not just for study permit. This is for all the way to PR. If you're doing proof of funds for PR, you need to do that. If you're applying for a work permit that you need proof of funds, you need to do that. You're applying for a visitor's visa, your proof of funds is more than just the bank balance in your account. It's explaining the source of funds to the visa officer so that they're convinced as well. If you're doing any temporary residence application, like if you're submitting a temporary residence application, such as a study permit to come to Canada, a visiting visa to visit Canada, do not forget to always show your ties to your home country and convince the officer that you're going to leave Canada at the end of your studies. If you're an international student in Canada and you're looking to extend your study permit, don't forget that you need to ensure and show IRCC when you're applying for that extension that you are compliant with the study permit rules and regulation in the first time that the study permit was issued to you. If for any reason you were non-compliant, you had stopped going to school, whatever, something happened, explain yourself. Don't just put in an application for an extension without explaining your circumstances or even the reason why you're asking for a new study permit, because we are seeing more and more study permit extensions being refused and things like that. So it is very important that you have that in place as you're doing your application. Spousal open work permit has changed. It's not business as usual. It's not what it used to be before and things like that. So when you're looking at coming to Canada and all of that, it is important that you check, you make a choice to determine the program that you want to come for. You want to ensure that it's a program that would be eligible for your spouse to come on a spousal open work permit, or you start exploring the other options that do exist for your spouse to come to Canada as well. Permanent residence. If you have not heard, you have not seen, permanent residence, getting permanent residence in Canada has changed over the last couple of years. Since the pandemic, well, it's almost 4 years now. Since the pandemic, it's been going through an evolution. During the pandemic, there was a time when there was no draws at all. And then the draws started and it was only provincial draws and CEC draws, no FSW, Federal Skilled Worker draw for a year, for a period of time. Before then, those draws started coming again. And then now, last year, IRCC introduced the category-based draws, because what was happening was there was a push out there that the immigrants that were coming into Canada did not match the labor needs of Canada. So in Canada's effort to try to align that, what they did was they started, they created categories. So there are like 6 categories that does exist: French, healthcare, trade, transportation, tech, that does exist for an agri category for express entry. So now it's not just about you being in the express entry and having a high score. That still exists because there's still an all programs draw that does not select based on any category or anything. But now it's about you also having skills in one of these sectors that I just mentioned. And it's not just anybody in those sectors. There are specific categories in those sections as well that are available, that would be invited in draws. And I think we talked about a couple of people today that might have a chance based on their knock codes or their work experience and things like that. So it has changed that now people have to look more, that you'll find people who have scores in the 500s but have not received an ITA. Why have they not received an ITA to apply for permanent residence? Because the draws have not happened. It's also a time where if you're thinking of coming to study in Canada, studying in Canada is a proven pathway to getting PR, but it's not guaranteed. I'd state that it's not guaranteed. The fact that you come and get Canadian education does not mean that you will be able to get permanent residence. So it's very important that when you're thinking to coming to study in Canada and you have plans of, you're like, I think I'm going to like that country, I'd love to stay here long term, you might want to start assessing what your options look like before you start. What we're seeing right now with immigration is a time when applicants have to have plan A, B, C, D. You can't just have one plan to say, I'm just going to use express entry and I'm going to get to permanent residence. It's not that way anymore. So you need to have other options. You need to be willing to explore other things in order to achieve those immigration goals and things like that. And a lot of times there's a lot of information out there that you can read. And sometimes it could truly get overwhelming figuring out what works for you and your family. And that's where we come in, because when you have a one-on-one session with a consultant, they tailor a strategy and a pathway and an option for you based on your own profile. They let you know what's possible and what's not possible. They let even students that we work with, they're people who come to us and you look at their profile, you look at their work experience, you look at everything and you're like, and they're like, I really want to stay in Canada. I don't want to leave. And we're like, your 1 year work experience is not going to get you there. Your 1 year postgraduate work permit may not get you there. You might need to get this type of education, this type of work experience to combine with what you already have so that you can have more options and things like that. And that's where professional advice comes in. There's a lot online, and you can definitely do that research to figure it out yourself. But if you need that help, that expertise to help you through, that's where we come in. You know, my team and I are able to help you. We're able to help you with those applications as well that you're working on. We have a team of people that what makes us happy, what keeps us happy is every approval that we get for our clients. We're very invested in it. And as you can see today, it's like we will go the extra mile to find the answer for you. We have cases where we're having meetings and we're hashing it out on a client's case so much because we want to make sure that every application that goes out is strong and is convincing to a visa officer that looks at our application and things like that. So that's it. There's a lot of questions that we couldn't get to. We will have this again probably in 2 weeks. We will have another Monday Q&A session like this, but we'll try to keep this more regular. But do follow us on our new Instagram backup page. Subscribe to our website. We're on all other platforms, Twitter, TikTok. You can be there. You can find us there. But the best way to reach the team, because on all the social media platforms is a social media team that is there. They're not the consultant. They're not the expert. Reach out to the team, complete a contact us form in-house, and we will work with you to guide you through on how we can serve you as well. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And one last question there that I'm going to quickly answer is, can I convert from visitor to study permit? The answer is yes. And we actually do have an article on this on our news hub, and you can check that out as well. So infoplacecanada.ca/news hub, just search visitor to study permit and you will find that article as well. So thank you, everyone. This video will be live on all the platforms that you've probably joined on today. And if you have any additional questions, we look forward to working with you and serving you as well. Esther, Sharon, any final words?
I always enjoy answering questions, and yeah, it's my absolute pleasure. I came to Canada as an international, not as an international student, but as a, through Express Entry as a federal skilled worker. So it is absolutely my pleasure to help other people do the same thing that I did. And yeah, I wish all of you the best of luck. And please get in touch with us if you would like to take these ideas further. Absolutely.
Esther?
It was a pleasure answering all of your questions. I see there are still some unanswered questions in the chat. So if those are urgent questions that you need answers to, please email our team or book a consultation with Sharon or with me or any of our consultants in-house, and then we can help you further.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone that has joined today. I hope you've walked away with a thing or two. We look forward to seeing you during our next session. So subscribe on our website, on our platform, so that when we're having the next session here, you're going to be able to get the link and come in and have your question asked. The earlier you come, the better, because then you get your question answered really early. Thank you so much and have a great day, everyone.